Do you remember a moment in life that stopped your breath? That begged you to beckon closer and pay attention? Have you ever stared at a river carving its way through jagged cliffs and thought about its history, its life? What it's leaving behind and what it's taking away? Have you ever pondered what will remain when this life is over? What memories will be created while you're here? What legacy will you leave behind? And what legacy has been left behind for you? At the turn of the century, more people came to the Royal Gorge Park than ever before. The 5,000 acres had been deeded to Canyon City in 1906 by an act of Congress signed by President Theodore Roosevelt. 23 years later, an idea sparked in the mind of a Texas man, an idea that others had only dreamed of accomplishing, an idea so grand, so involved that no one had been able to bring it to life. But Lon P. Piper was different in this way. He was the man who succeeded in building the world's highest suspension bridge, 1,260 feet across the gorge. To truly understand the full story of the Royal Gorge, we must go back to the beginning.
Hey there! So I overheard you saying you're telling the story of the Royal Gorge, and I happen to know a lot about it if you want my help telling it or anything.
Uh-huh. And who are you?
I'm Howard Oscar Owens, but my friends call me H2O.
H2O. Huh. Clever. Well, H2O, I was just going to talk about the Precambrian Era, and
I love the Precambrian Era! Allow me!
Okay.
If you paid attention in science class, you may remember something about the different eras of the Earth. These eras are a geological subdivision of time. Think of them as parts of history and little bite-sized pieces.
Pardon me.
If you go back to what is known as the Precambrian Era, or anything before 600 million years ago, you would see that Colorado was completely covered in water.
You mean the ocean?
Absolutely. The beautiful Rocky Mountain High State was part of the ocean floor. During this time, 1.7 billion years ago, Precambrian rock was primed by heat and pressure from the Earth's core, along with a little erosion.
The metamorphic rock found in the Royal Gorge is actually the oldest rock to be found in the state of Colorado. But let's fast forward, shall we, to what Colorado used to look like.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. Great minds think alike.
Uh-huh. Sure you were. If we could just...
About 500 to 300 million years ago, during the Paleozoic era, Colorado's landscape was flat, lush coastland, like Florida.
Sort of. But the really fascinating thing is, how did this flat land turn into the mountainous region it is today?
Ooh, I know. Joshua!
Joshua?
Yeah, my friend Joshua. He'll know the answer. He's a paleontologist.
Well, Howard, I know the answer. So if we could just stick...
Trust me, he knows all about this stuff.
It was a rhetorical question, Howard.
Come on!
Oh, brother.
Hey, Joshua!
Oh, hey, Howard, how are you?
Can you tell us about how Colorado became the mountainous region it is today?
Sure, that's easy.
So a long time ago, Colorado used to be these low-lying flatland areas. And then about 245 million years ago, a series of slow uplifts began to happen here that brought these mountains up to the high peaks we see today. And as these mountains rose up, they began to form rivers and floodplains that carried a lot of water.
Just like me.
Over time, erosion stripped away soft sedimentary layers and exposed these harder granitic rocks that became the rugged peaks of the Rocky Mountains.
Fun fact, all of this erosion happened during the Mesozoic era, or as I like to call it, the age of the dinosaurs.
That's right, and in 1877, a lot of dinosaur fossils were found north of Canyon City. This started what was called the Bone Wars, where two scientists named Othniel Charles March and Edward Drinker Cope started to outcompete each other about who could excavate and name the most dinosaurs.
Wow!
This fierce competition brought paleontology to the public eye, and this is basically what kickstarted paleontology as we know it.
Whoa, that is awesome. Now tell me about the Stegosaurus. Why is he important?
Well, the Stegosaurus is definitely a Jurassic classic dinosaur, and it's not only just the Colorado State fossil, but that fossil as well as another really intact Stegosaurus was found right here near Canyon City. The Stegosaurus is pretty well known for having big bony plates on its back as well as spikes on its tail. These plates and the spikes are really important because it allowed it to defend itself.
That's cool. So Joshua, what about the formation of the Royal Gorge?
Well, as the Arkansas River formed high up in the Sawatch Mountains, it began to carve its way across the Front Range of Colorado, stripping away softer sedimentary layers, and at the same time an uplift.
An uplift occurred!
Exactly. And remember those 1.7 billion-year-old Precambrian rocks? Well, this uplift brought a lot of those igneous and metamorphic rocks up, and the intense pressure of the uplift fractured the rock. The Arkansas River began to flow into these fractures and start carving away at them until they became the 1,250-foot gorge right here behind me.
Wowza! Thank you, Joshua.
No problem, Howard. I'll see you later.
See you later.
H2O?
You're welcome.
Well, I don't remember thanking you, but...
Well, Joshua killed it, so you're welcome.
All right, well, I think I'll take it back over now.
What are we talking about next?
I'm going to talk about exploration and adventure.
Ooh, I love adventure. Let's go!
Howard, I think it's best if we... All right, never mind. Years after dinosaurs roamed the earth, the Native Americans arrived. Plains tribes used the Royal Gorge region for hunting grounds during the warmer months, and a mountain tribe, the Ute Indians, used the canyon as a shelter from the wind and cold during the winter. Eventually, in 1642, Spanish missionaries made their way to explore the region, followed by fur trappers in the 1700s, and then, in the early 1800s, mountain men and explorers made the journey out west.
Like Lieutenant Zebulon Pike.
Exactly. He was the first American explorer to travel the Pikes region in 1806 when he led his second military expedition to find the headwaters of the Arkansas River. This journey took him through the Royal Gorge, in which they built a shelter as they searched the area. It was also during this time that he and his team attempted to summit the peak that is now named in honor of him.
That's right, Pikes Peak, the highest peak in Colorado Springs.
That's correct, but they never climbed Pikes Peak. They attempted the wrong peak. They actually summited Mount Rosa, which sits at 11,499 feet.
Did you know this climb is the first known successful alpine mountain summit by a European descendant in North America? Crazy, right?
Actually, I did. We should really get back on track.
Right, sorry.
Speaking of tracks, after Lieutenant Pike, other expeditions occurred to the Royal Gorge region, and eventually the area became one of possibility. In 1860, mining camps were set up in Canyon City, Leadville, and other areas around the region to uncover if the land had gold, silver, or lead. In the late 1870s, miners struck silver in Leadville, and the infamous Colorado Railroad War began.
Oh, this is where it gets good.
You've heard this?
Of course I have. My friend Lisa tells this story all the time.
Well, I think I'm perfectly capable of telling...
You know what? There's a video of her telling it by the railroad tracks. Let me see your phone.
No.
Just kidding. I forgot I have my iPad. Silly me.
The Royal Gorge Railroad War started in 1878 when two railroad companies, the Denver and Rio Grande, the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe, were trying to build a railroad at the same time.
But they were never going to both be able to build because the gorge was too narrow.
Yes, I know. But did you know that initially the Denver and Rio Grande had gotten permission from the city of Canyon City to start surveying the area for a railroad? But they never built it. What they did do is open a door for the other company, Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railway, to come in and survey in a different area of the gorge.
Yeah, let's keep watching, Lisa.
When they heard about the silver being discovered up in Leadville, then the race was on.
Yeehaw!
Both companies hired gunmen to intimidate the other company from building their track through the gorge.
Fun fact, the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railway hired Bat Masterson and his gunmen. Pew pew! He's a famous gunfighter from Dodge City, Kansas.
Yes, and he and his...
So the Denver Rio Grande was awarded the rights to build a railroad through a court decision. Santa Fe didn't want to quite give up that right yet.
Another fun fact, the sheriff of Pueblo County issued a warning to Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe to stop operating their railway. But it wasn't until fighters from Denver and Rio Grande stormed through the doors of the Santa Fe's fortress in Pueblo.
Let's get him!
They scared Masterson and his men. Then Santa Fe surrendered.
You go on and get.
Sorry, I really like that part.
The Railroad War ended when both companies signed the Treaty of Boston, and Denver and Rio Grande paid the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe $1.4 million plus $400,000 interest.
Gotta love that interest.
Well, I doubt you know what interest is.
This is so fun. What's next?
Well, this is
What is?
the bridge. We are back to where we started, to Lon P. Piper and his dream.
One suspension bridge to rule them all.
Wrong film, Howard.
Oops, sorry.
Do you know how many hours of labor it took to build this bridge?
No, but I bet Steve does.
Steve? Howard. Again, it was a rhetorical question. And he's off.
Hey, Steve, can you tell us about the construction of the bridge?
I got you, Howard. I'll take it from here.
Thanks, Steve.
So George Cole, the engineer for this bridge, designed this bridge to hold 2 million pounds. And to do that, he utilized over 1,000 tons of steel in the towers and in the steel deck. So this bridge is 1,260 feet long, with the main span being 938 feet. And the bridge was built by 88 men. Half the team was over on the south side, half was on the north side, and they worked together to build the towers first and then run the cables about 956 feet above the Arkansas River. In 1929, when this was built, this was by far the highest suspension bridge that had been built in the world. In 2001, bridges started being built higher. But the fact that for 70 years, it was the highest bridge just shows you the magnitude of what George Cole was able to accomplish at such an early time in history.
Wow, that sounds very expensive. How much did this thing cost?
So at the time, the bridge cost $350,000. But today, it'd be way more than that. In our dollars, that'd be over $20 million to build a bridge like this.
Whoa, that's a lot of money. So, didn't they update the bridge in the 80s? Why was that?
So when they inspected the bridge in 1980 and saw corrosion in the cables, they decided that they needed to do something to keep the longevity of this bridge. They needed to rebuild the anchorage. And that anchorage is critical to supporting the bridge, so they didn't know how they were going to do it. So they brought on a specialty firm to come in and design a fix. What they did is they created a temporary support for that cable, and then they drilled into the rock 55 feet to have these anchors that would support the cable.
Not that kind.
And then one by one, they cut the cables and transfer them into these new supports.
That is so impressive.
You know, it was crazy at the time. Nobody had done it before. But the cool thing about engineering is if you think about it enough and you have the numbers to support what you want to do, you can try anything.
Thanks, Steve.
Anytime, Howard. Anytime.
Pretty cool, huh?
Uh-huh.
The construction of the bridge brought even more life to the area. It enticed daredevils to show off in front of crowds, to do things like perform a trapeze act over the gorge. The bridge entertained individuals like President Franklin D. Roosevelt, and since 1929 has seen over 27 million visitors.
They also added really fun things.
Like the aerial tram, the longest single-span tram in the world. It truly became an appealing place.
I'll be right back. I want to go check out that ride. Do you think you can handle this next part alone?
I have been. I'm the one who knows the Royal Gorge more than anyone. I can't get any respect around here. What comes next is my least favorite part of the story. But like any good story, there will always be hardship. Over the span of 8 decades, Lon P. Piper's dream took flight, and the bridge became a destination location for tourists. A spark lit that idea, and unfortunately, a spark nearly destroyed that idea as well. On June 11th of 2013, a wildfire clawed its way towards the bridge from 2 miles to the west. Around midday, everyone was evacuated from the park.
7 News continues to be on fire alert over the Royal Gorge Park this morning.
The fire devoured 48 buildings and attractions and 3,200 acres of land. But miraculously, everyone survived, and the bridge remained standing.
I will never forget that day in June. I came up to work a little later than usual, and I remember driving up in my car thinking, it feels like I'm standing in a hairdryer. It did not feel normal that morning when I walked into work. And we started hearing from the rangers on the radio that there's a fire so many miles south, we'll keep an eye on it. Next thing you heard was, it jumped the gorge, you need to go, you need to go. I can't even begin to tell you how we all felt when we heard that the park had burned to the ground. We lost 90% of the park. It really hit home to me that this park was never going to be what it was. But you know the great thing about it is we have the gorge. The bridge was there. If the bridge had burned or been destroyed during the fire, there would not probably be a bridge there today. The fact that it could withstand anything, you know, it really touched our heart. I think we were refined by fire. You know, we built a gorgeous new park. The bridge is still the same. It brings the same emotion, the same relief, the same smiles.
Revitalization occurred. The City of Canyon City, the Natural Resource Conservation Service, and the Royal Gorge Bridge and Park began helping the land rejuvenate by scattering over 28,000 pounds of native grass and wildflower seed over 900 acres via helicopter. Over 800 volunteers planted 9,000 pinyon pines and juniper trees. The beginning of reconstruction occurred on January 31st, 2014, and despite less than ideal weather conditions in the beginning, the new visitor center was completed in 7 months. A new gondola and zip line went in place of the old aerial tram and glider. The park came back.
And it came back stronger than ever.
You guys ready for the Royal Gorge?
Yeah.
Wow.
Look, goodness. Whoa, look down. Oh my goodness.
This is incredible. Girls, it's 956 feet down.
Really? Are you serious?
Isn't that wild?
Wow. That's insane.
Have fun. Trust fall.
Here we go.
Have a nice flight.
3, 2, 1, fly!
That was so fun. Do that again.
What memories will be created while you're here? What history will you interact with? What history will you write?
I don't think I can do this.
If you think you can't,
I can't.
if you think you can,
I can't.
so can you?
I think I can.
This story is this landscape's. It is history's story, and it is ours. So what page will you write today? Will you laugh with a loved one? Will you watch your children play? Share a meal with friends? Or conquer fears and experience beauty in a new way? Today is your moment to experience
The Royal Gorge.
exactly, Howard. The one and only Royal Gorge Bridge and Park.